Long before the skies turned black, the American Midwest was an ocean of gold. For thousands of years, the Great Plains were held together by a thick, impenetrable web of deep-rooted prairie grass. It survived brutal droughts, freezing blizzards, and the test of time. But it couldn't survive human greed. In the 1920s, the world was hungry. World War I had destroyed European farms, and the price of American wheat skyrocketed. It was an agricultural gold rush. The government and greedy corporations whispered a dangerous, arrogant lie into the ears of the settlers. Rain follows the plow. They told the farmers that the more they dug, the more it would rain. So, an army of mechanized steel arrived. Massive gasoline tractors ran day and night, ripping open millions of acres of untouched earth. They completely slaughtered the native grass, stripping the land of its ancient, natural armor. For a few short years, the farmers became kings. They bought shiny new cars, expanded their massive empires, and laughed at the old ways. They truly believed they had conquered nature. But nature never forgives. In 1929, the stock market crashed, wiping out their paper wealth, and then, in 1930, the rain simply stopped. The blazing summer sun baked the naked, defenseless soil until it turned into a fine, powdery dust. The farmers stared at their dead crops, completely unaware that they had just built the largest ecological time bomb in human history. The trap was set. All it needed now was a gust of wind. For months, not a single drop of rain fell from the sky. The heat was absolute and merciless. Rivers that had flowed for centuries simply vanished into thin air. The once rich, dark soil of the Midwest baked under 100-degree sun until it turned into a fine, suffocating powder. It was no longer dirt. It was like baby powder, so light that even a footstep would send a cloud into the air. The farmers looked up at the empty, white sky, praying for a miracle. But heaven was closed, and then the wind began to howl. At first, it was just a low rumble on the horizon, a strange, dark line appearing at the edge of the world. The people stepped out of their wooden houses, shielding their eyes with weathered hands. They thought, finally, a rainstorm is coming. But as the shadow grew larger, the temperature suddenly plummeted. The air felt heavy, electric. The birds stopped singing, the dogs began to whimper and hide under the porches. This wasn't a rain cloud. It was a moving mountain of earth, 2 miles high and hundreds of miles wide. A tidal wave of black dust, rolling across the plains, swallowing everything in its path. The roar of the wind was deafening, like 100 freight trains rushing towards them. Panic swept through the towns. Mothers grabbed their screaming children, running blindly for shelter. They slammed the wooden doors and shoved rags under the windows, but there was no escaping it. When the black blizzard hit, the sun was instantly erased. It was noon, but it became as black as midnight in a coal mine. You couldn't see your own hand in front of your face. The dust was so thick, you could taste the dirt on your teeth. It burned the eyes and ripped the skin like sandpaper. In that suffocating darkness, trapped inside their shaking homes, millions of Americans realized a terrifying truth. Nature wasn't just taking back the land. Nature was fighting back. Surviving the black blizzard was only the beginning of the nightmare. When the dust settled, a new, invisible terror emerged. The millions of tons of swirling dirt, rubbing together in the dry air, created massive amounts of static electricity. The planes became highly charged. If you touched a metal doorknob or the frame of your car, the shock could knock a grown man entirely unconscious. Barbed wire fences glowed at night with an eerie electrical fire. People dragged heavy iron chains behind their cars just to ground the vehicles so the engines wouldn't short out and explode. But the terror outside was nothing compared to the slow death inside. The dust was so fine, it defied every barrier. It seeped through the tightest cracks in the walls, around the window panes, and under the doors. Mothers frantically hung wet sheets over the beds, hoping to catch the flying dirt before it reached their sleeping children. But in the morning, those white sheets were completely black. And then the coughing started. They called it dust pneumonia. People weren't just breathing in dirt. Their lungs were slowly filling with wet mud. The makeshift hospitals filled up with gasping children and frail elders, struggling for a single breath of clean air. Outside, the livestock suffered a similar, gruesome fate. Cows and horses collapsed in the fields, their stomachs completely compacted with pure sand. The Midwest had become an alien planet, a suffocating wasteland where even the air you breathed was trying to kill you. For years, the people of the plains endured the punishing dirt. They thought they had seen the worst of it, but they were wrong. April 14th, 1935, began as a beautiful, clear Sunday morning. The sun was shining. The air was finally still. Families went to church. Children played outside, feeling a brief, desperate hope. But by mid-afternoon, the temperature dropped 20 degrees in a matter of minutes. On the northern horizon, a monster appeared. It wasn't a cloud. It was a solid, black wall of earth, over 1,000 feet high, moving at 60 miles an hour. This was Black Sunday. The storm was so massive, it displaced 300 million tons of topsoil in a single day. As the black tidal wave hit, the destruction was absolute. Flocks of birds, trying to outrun the storm, fell dead from the sky, suffocated in mid-air. Cars were instantly buried. On the highways, drivers were completely blinded, crashing into invisible ditches. Inside the towns, sheer panic erupted. People couldn't see their own hands, couldn't breathe. They stumbled blindly through the pitch-black streets, holding onto fences just to find their way home. Many believed this was the end of the world. Families huddled in their basements, or fell to their knees in the dusty churches, praying for salvation as the deafening roar of the wind tore the roofs off their houses. For hours they sat in total darkness, waiting for the wrath of God to pass. When the sun finally returned, the America they knew was gone. After Black Sunday, hope didn't just fade, it was buried under 5 feet of dirt. The once proud farmers of the plains looked at their buried tractors, their dead livestock, and the graves of their children, and they realized the dream was dead. Nature had won. By the late 1930s, an exodus began, the likes of which America had never seen. Over 2 million people packed their entire lives into battered Ford Model Ts or simple horse-drawn wagons tying tattered mattresses and rusty pots to the roofs. They turned their backs on the land that broke them. They became the refugees of the dust. Their only hope was a ribbon of asphalt called Route 66. They called it the Mother Road, the only path that could lead them away from the suffocation toward the promise of California. The journey was relentless. For weeks, they crawled across the blistering deserts and over steep mountain passes, praying the old cars wouldn't break down, leaving them stranded to die in the heat. Many buried their loved ones along the side of the highway, leaving only a crude wooden cross in the dirt. But California was not the paradise they were promised. It was another circle of hell. The locals didn't welcome them. They called them Okies, a hateful name for anyone fleeing the dust. They were met with signs that read, "No jobs, no shelter, keep going." The desperate families were forced into crowded labor camps, living in tents or shacks made of scrap metal, working for pennies, picking fruit in the blazing sun, controlled by greedy corporate farms. They had fled one wasteland, only to find themselves trapped in another, a wasteland of human cruelty. The Dust Bowl didn't just change the map, it scarred the American soul. It taught a terrifying, unforgettable lesson about the price of human arrogance, a warning that when you try to conquer nature, nature will eventually destroy you. The graves are still there, buried deep beneath the sand, a silent reminder of the time the land, fighting back,